everybody out there in Parent-Tween Connection land. We are back with another amazing conversation. And I know this is going to be amazing because Caley and I are actually starting later than we anticipated because we just got talking and all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, we're supposed to be live. So without any further ado, Caley Rose, thank you for being with me today.
Thank you for having me. And I've already gotten chills from this conversation. So
I love it.
Well.
I love it. So for those of you who are tuning in, if this is your first time tuning in, welcome. I'm thrilled that you're listening. I am Clarissa Constantine, and I am the founder of the Parent-Tween Connection. If you've never heard of Parent-Tween Connection, we are where parents go when they don't know where to go to find resources. Words apparently are a challenge right now, but we are where parents go to find resources to help them help themselves and to help them help their kids. Now, much of our conversation is geared toward kids between the ages of 10 and 20, but so many of the tools that we can share with parents and with kids can be applied much, much, much younger as well. So even if your kiddo isn't quite into that teen tween space yet, tune in. We're going to have some good stuff. The Parent-Tween Foundation, which this is our conversation today, is part of Empowerathon, which is the inaugural fundraiser for Parent-Tween Foundation. And the goal of our foundation is to help bridge the financial gap that so frequently exists between families and professionals who can help them. So Caley is one of the speakers who has said, yes, let me stand behind you and help you get the word out to more people and raise some funds. So because this is a fundraiser, just be aware that there will be a shameless request for a donation at the end of the conversation if you get some good stuff, which I know you will. Last housekeeping tip, we are live in our Facebook group. If you're on Facebook, come on over to Parent-Tween Connection. I do have it open on the other monitor, so if you ask questions, I can field them and we can bounce them over to Caley as we go. Or if you're tuning in on YouTube or on LinkedIn, you can comment there and we'll get notifications after the interview and we'll be sure to circle back. So that's all the housekeeping. Caley Rose, Billboard Charting Artist, founder of Music with a Message, and I think potentially a soul sister of mine. Welcome and thank you for being here.
I agree. Thank you for having me.
So those of us in music, and I full disclosure to anyone tuning in, part of the reason that Caley and I jive so quickly is that I'm also a musician, although my music shows up in a different way than hers does. But those of us who are in music, and I would even broaden that to say the arts largely, the arts, and for you and me specifically, music has been our safe space. Music has been our escape. Music has been, I don't mean to be sacrilegious in saying this, but salvation for many of us. Right? It has been that lifeline during some of our hardest times.
Absolutely.
And so I thought it would be cool, Caley, if you're comfortable, to start with a little bit of the background for you. You know, a lot of families look at music and art and they're like, there's no living to be made there, which I would argue with. But aside from that, even if your kid doesn't want to pursue it fully, there's a lot, or professionally rather, there's a lot that they can get out of it. So Caley, can you kind of give us the backstory of like what brought you to Music with a Message?
Yes. So, well, I started Music with a Message a year ago and maybe 2 months because I woke up and was thinking about, truly, it was just inspired action taking. I was thinking about how I was bullied when I was a kid. I was in middle school, and the profound impact that had on my self-confidence, and that lasted for over a decade. Oh, sorry, my mom is calling.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom. I silenced my phone, but she's on emergency bypass. That's why.
There you go.
It's important. It's important to have your mom on emergency bypass. Yes. So that lasted for over a decade, and it really negatively affected my self-esteem, and it affected my relationships. It affected my work. It affected my friendships. It affected my thoughts every single moment of every single day, because my thing with, I think, Music with a Message and building confidence tools in schools is so incredibly important, because I don't use my AP chemistry anymore. I don't use my AP calculus. And I was in all the AP classes. I forgot every art history date, but my thoughts are the one thing that I have with me every moment of every day. And when I was growing up, everyone would say to me, be confident, love yourself. And I would just keep saying, how? Please show me how. I wanted the answers. And so I'm trying to create those answers and create a pathway and show kids how to build their own confidence. And so I created music with a message in order to bring confidence tools into schools. I started taking completely imperfect action and just inspired action and started just speaking in schools and linking my music to the message of empowerment. And I was saying earlier, I think I gave them too much information all at once because I was so eager to help kids get through that loneliness, get through that dark period, because it's inevitable and it might not be bullying in school. And I hope we can protect every kid from that. But at some point, life is going to try to knock you down. It's just a fact. Every adult you talk to, once you get deep enough in a conversation, you realize that they had this difficulty or this struggle. And how did they get through it? So having a strong sense of self and self-esteem, I think, is the most important thing that you can build in your kids and teens.
Absolutely. And I think part of it, based on my experiences, we know that the arts are also a haven for families or for individuals who identify as being in the LGBTQIA community. We know that rates of depression and anxiety in the LGBTQIA plus community are higher than in the heteronormative community. Rates of suicidal ideation, rates of suicide attempts, and suicide completions are also higher in any marginalized community. But given that we're talking music, it is a place where many folks in the LGBTQIA plus community find safety. And it's self-esteem and self-confidence are antidotes, or at least steps toward antidotes against the perils of anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, and such beyond that. So what are some of the lessons that you wish parents could hear, like that you're giving to the kids through the music and the entertainment? Because to your point, like, kids have to be engaged. They have to, like, we can't just be there and be like, just believe in yourself, right? Like, to your point of how.
Yes.
But there's also the aspect that kids roll their eyes at parents and think that parents are dumb as rocks when they're teenagers and tweens. And parents, remember, like, that's normal. Okay? You're not the only one who is dumb as rocks. Every parent of a 14-year-old is navigating.
My 14-year-old brother. Yeah, totally.
Right? So, like, what are some of the lessons that you're teaching that they can help back up at home to the extent that the kids are going to listen to them? Because if they hear it from you at school or on a CD or on a TikTok or whatever, but then mom and dad are saying the same thing, there's some consistency.
Totally. I think a couple things. I do think a fresh perspective and a fresh voice is necessary, So I think when students aren't listening to parents and tuning them out, two things there. Yes, they are listening, they hear it. They might pretend they don't hear it and shut their ears and try to avoid it, but it is being heard. And I think if necessary, finding someone who can reach them, who's maybe closer to their age and they look up to in a different way, is very beneficial. And I think that's why, I'm coming in. I am mostly trying to support what most schools are trying to do. I hope most schools are trying to do these days. SEL programming, socio-emotional learning, luckily is on the rise. But teachers are so overworked. Administrators, principals, everyone in schools is so overworked. And they're trying to do this, but they also have to worry about standardized test scores. And they also have to worry about this and that and the third. So I come in, it's a fresh assembly, it's fun, it's delivered in a really fun way. And that was the other thing. So I started imperfectly, and now I've tailored it where it's not bite size, it's a more digestible program. And it's very clear what the message is about confidence and getting through bullying. So now I have the music supporting the message even more. I'm writing songs specifically for the program. That's how it's different, from where it was a year ago. But the other thing about parents and what they can do, I think instead of talking about it, is modeling it. Now I'm going to be a much better parent than I would have been 12 years ago because I have studied confidence so much and I have built my own confidence in myself. So when I look in the mirror, instead of saying, oh, I hate how I look every single day, or I feel fat and I look fat, or things like that, I'm never going to say that in front of my daughter because, one, I know better. Two, I don't feel that way anymore. I truly, truly, truly hated. Oh, no, it was reloading. Do you see me?
I'm back.
I was talking.
Yep, keep going.
Oh, good. I was like, you look a little still, but I'm just going to keep going. Yeah, but truly, I mean, what year is it now? I don't know, 12, 13 years ago, I truly hated myself. I had no self-love, I had no self-worth, I had no self-respect. And so I used to think of confidence as something people either had, well, everyone else had, and I did not. And it was something you were born with, and it was something you were lucky to have, and or you had because you were blonde or something insane like that, you know? And now I understand, oh no, it's a choice. It's something I can work on and build and learn more about. And so,
Mhm.
no, because I've come from the lowest of the low when it comes to self esteem, I see
Mhm.
that it can be worked upon and built. So, parents modeling it, that was all to say, I would not have been the parent 10, 12 years ago that I am today because I built my
Mhm.
own confidence. I would not have been able to help my daughter get there. And the other day, someone actually told her to be humble. She's so confident. And I didn't say it in the moment. I might have a talk with that person later. But another friend of mine who's a motivational speaker in schools, Cam F. Awesome, who I learn a lot from, he said, Right now, look up the definition of humble." And I was like, okay. And I looked it up, and both the two top definitions of humble have the word low in it. It's like to lower yourself to the expectations of others. And so basically, I don't know. I used to think of it as like a middle ground, get humble, but no, you're lowering yourself. And I don't think I'm never going to be dangerous of being arrogant. It's just not who I am because I'm
Mhm.
coming from this place. I had to build myself to get here. I'm never going to get to arrogance. I don't think my daughter is either because the world is gonna knock you down. It's gonna say something that comes out of left field, as much as it hurts me to say. So I think our job is to just raise them up and get them to appreciate themselves as much as we humanly can in preparation for that.
I love it.
That was a lot.
So what I'm hearing, and yes, my internet did flip out for a second. So thanks
Uh,
for just rolling with it. I'm glad I'm back. But what I
no,
heard was bring in other team members,
if need be.
right?
Yep.
Because there is a point at which your kids aren't going to listen to you. And so, and
Mm,
it doesn't necessarily have to be like hiring a life coach for your child, which it certainly can be,
mhm.
right? Like, and my husband's a life coach for a mentor for
Uh,
kids. Our last
mm,
Empowerathon conversation was with a life coach for teen girls.
uh,
There is absolutely a place for that. But there's also a place for finding people like Kaylee on TikTok,
yeah.
sharing TikTok videos or
Yeah.
on Facebook Reels or wherever you are.
Mhm.
There's a place for finding documentaries about teenagers and about things
Totally.
that they're doing.
Mm,
There's finding, mentors don't have to be people that you necessarily pay in cash to learn
mm,
from. They
mhm.
can be other sources. You and I were talking about some books before we
Yeah.
went live, right?
Yeah.
Books by like Norman Vincent Peale and Dale Carnegie, who are from the early 1900s,
Yeah.
the early 20th century, but
Yeah.
their stuff is still good. And so
Mhm.
whether it's finding those mentors and that input for the kids or for
Mhm.
ourselves as the adults who then influence the kids,
Totally.
finding other resources, finding or
Yeah.
creating a team is what I'm hearing you say.
Or making sure, their soccer coach is someone who's building up their self-esteem, and their tutor, I used to tutor preschoolers and kids in high school, and a lot of those tutoring sessions would end up talking about life, because that's what
Mhm.
kids want to talk about, their friends and this difficulty here and their relationship with this guy. And it's natural to want to talk about human things other than just math, and I had to make sure we got the math homework done,
Sure.
but I was closer to them in age, and so they wanted to talk to me about it. So finding
Mhm.
other mentors. The other thing was really modeling confidence and not
Right.
looking in the mirror and tearing yourself down. My best friend and I talk
Right.
about that all the time because it's very easy to pick out the flaws. It takes work to look in the mirror and say, I really like what my hair has going on today. And it can
Mhm.
start really small, but then building upon that and building it up in ourselves and others.
Right. Love
Mm,
it. Thank you for filling
mm,
that in because you
totally.
went there when my computer fritzed out.
Yeah.
So then one of the other things that, at Parent Tween Connection, clearly we're all about connection between the
Mm,
parents and the kids and doing everything we can to help give parents tools to
mm,
strengthen those connections.
mhm,
One of the things that I always say to parents, and full disclosure, anyone tuning in, I'm actually not a parent myself. My husband and I haven't chosen to go down that route.
mm.
Between us, we have damn near 40 years of experience working with teenagers in
And
our respective
thousands of
professions.
kids.
I've literally worked with tens of thousands of kids at
Tens
this
of
point.
thousands.
And to your point of like kids sometimes talk to me about stuff that they're not ready to talk to mom and dad about, and
Mm,
or mom and dad are like, how do I talk to my kids about this? Like, how do
Yeah.
I talk to my kids about safe sex? How do I
Yeah.
talk to my kids about suicide? Like,
Mm.
it can be hard. And to your point, I think your term was cringy,
Yeah.
right? Like, it just feels awkward. And yet we're the ones as the adults in their world who have the fully formed prefrontal cortex. And
Mhm.
if we're not taking the initiative to have those conversations, it's a pretty sure bet that they're not going to either.
Absolutely.
And if we're not having those conversations with them, either no one is, which is a scary
Mm.
proposition in and of itself,
Mm.
or they are having the conversations, but they're having them with their peers,
Mhm.
which is in its own respect terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what suggestions do you have for families about having conversations around self image, self esteem? What kind of music can they pull in
Mhm.
to make it feel less awkward or less cringy, as you put it?
Yes, totally. Well, my music is great to listen to build confidence,
Perfect
obviously.
plug.
Yeah, but there are a bunch of different artists in that respect. And also, I mean, when you have that time, like I do a lot of studying on this now, and I've learned that when kids are doing an activity other than just staring in their parents' face, it's much better, especially in the teen and upper years, it's easier for them to have difficult conversations. So like when they're in the passenger seat of the car and they're able to look out at the world somehow, and also that forward movement, it just tends to foster good conversations about important things in that way.
Mhm.
Now I've forgotten what your question really was because I got excited about it.
How can they have some of these conversations? And I think your
Yeah.
first point about
Mm.
the physiological side by side, I think it also
Mhm.
engenders kind of like an us versus the world when we're side to side
Huh,
with
that's
them,
nice. I like
as
that.
opposed to like the confrontation of
I
like,
like
look
it a
at me
lot.
when I'm talking to you.
Uh-huh. Or playing a sport and getting our bodies active, so your mind is kind of on two things at once in a good way, and that's when kids tend to open up a little bit more. The
Mhm.
other thing I was going to say, my gosh, I've lost it again. We get on a really good topic and then we get on a really good tangent and I want to be in both of them at the same time. Oh, so, around the dinner table conversation
Mhm.
about there's something called the growth mindset and the fixed mindset. And so, one of my favorite things to do is in the morning, we'll do gratitude for the day ahead. Oh, you're going to bring out a book that I'm going to love. Oh, I've never read that. Oh, but I've heard of her. Have a tab up on my computer to read more about her. Thank you.
For anyone tuning in when this goes to the podcast and there's
Yes.
not a visual, the book is Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck. She's actually the one who established this concept of growth mindset and fixed
There it is.
mindset. So rock
Yes.
and roll. Tell
Yes.
me more.
So the way we talk about mistakes with our children. So I will either at the dinner table or in the morning, I'll talk about gratitude with my daughter and say 3 things I'm grateful for about myself, my personality, my physical appearance, how good or bad I am at something, and 3 things one thing, no wait, 3, and then 3. If it's at the dinner table, it's easier because it's the end of the day. 3 things that went wrong, but that we can learn from throughout the day. So kind
Mhm.
of embracing those mistakes. Because when I open up and I talk to my mistakes with my little brother who's 14 and he tunes me out with pretty much everything else. When I talk to him about some of my favorite mistakes that I have made, they become not just the best learning lessons, but also the best stories. When I had my wedding, when I got back to, or met people years later and talked about my wedding, did I tell them how beautiful the place settings looked? No. I told them about every single blunder, because that was the funny story.
Mhm.
So recognizing that when we make errors, it's a learning lesson. It's hard in the moment, but it's
Mhm.
going to make us grow, and embracing that and hopefully laughing about it, and doing
Mhm.
that with our kids. So sitting around the dinner table and saying, okay, well, what are 3 lessons you learned today? Well, I missed the bus, so I'm probably not going to, straighten my hair for much longer in the morning in the future. And I'm going to learn that if I don't leave at 8:05, if I leave at 8:07, I might miss the bus. And
Right.
hopefully we can laugh about it instead of berating ourselves,
Mhm.
because so much of self-confidence and self-esteem and our self-image and worth is how we talk to ourselves in our heads. And when we make a mistake, is it beating ourselves up and saying, I'm so stupid? I posted about this the other day. I was in New York where I used to live for 8 years, and it could be because I've been away for so long. It could be because no matter what, I would have missed that train, even if I had lived there for the past 12 years. But I jumped on a train. It was the D instead of the F. The F was what I needed. And I all of a sudden was on a bridge going into Brooklyn, and I needed to be in Lower Manhattan, and there was nothing I could do. Purely nothing. And I couldn't jump off the train. I couldn't do anything. Yeah, I was like, I can spend these next, I don't know, 7 minutes before the doors open and I can go across and switch. Next 7 minutes berating myself and saying, I can't believe you did that. You're so stupid. Da, da, da. Or I can choose the thoughts that are forgiving, and they're all up there. You can follow the path to the positive ones, or you can follow the path to the negative ones, or you can focus on something weird like, I don't know, playing with your feet. So all options are available to us.
Yeah.
Yes. And, I've been learning a lot about changing neural pathways and habits and all of that stuff. It's funny. I used to love learning about the brain and behavior. And now here I am full circle and uniting it with music. But it's fascinating what we can do just with the power of our minds. And so if we model that, sorry, this is a very long-winded answer because I get very passionate.
But it's good stuff. So keep going.
Yes. But I really was in my mind thinking, am I going to go this way or this way? And it's like the angel and the devil on our shoulder. Am I going to follow the fear thoughts, which are saying, you suck, look what you did? Or the positive, kind thoughts that are like, listen, you're a human being. People will be understanding if you're 5 minutes late. You were going to be there early anyway. And everything tends to work out in the end. It really does. And the more I believe that everything works out in the end, is this where my positive thoughts were? This is where they were. I'm mirroring myself on camera, so making sure this is where my angel is. Everything tends to work out. And if you believe that, what you believe becomes your reality. And the more we see that and the more we practice it, the more we're going to see it in our real life.
I like the meme on social media that says I've survived 100% of my hardest days so far.
Absolutely.
And if I've been through it before, I can navigate this. And going back to your point of having a team, like maybe I don't have to navigate it all by myself. I can find other people to help me navigate it.
Yes.
The
right team. And it doesn't, I get very protective of positivity because I think there are people in the world who don't trust it or don't believe in it. And I want to be very clear. I have had very, very dark days. I have had very, very dark months and years in my life and my family's life. So I am not someone who has just come out of into the world like this and just been all happy every single day of my life. I've built it and I've chosen it, even in the darkest times, trying to find the teeniest, tiniest glimmer of gratitude for myself, of gratitude for my world. It's a choice. It really is.
It totally is.
So
how can families use music, like you were saying, like your music is an example. There's a lot of other musicians out there who are really intentionally bringing more positivity into what they do. And that's across genres, right? Like one of my favorite songs is, and oh my gosh, I'm like blanking on the artists right now, but it's a female country singer and a male rap artist. Carrie Underwood and Ludacris. It just came
hey.
Right. And it's I Am a Champion. And so
I
it's
love that song.
intentional, right?
Yes.
And it's crossing genres, crossing boundaries. I mean, 20 years ago, a rap artist and a country artist, like that wouldn't have been a thing, right?
Yeah.
So like we're seeing more and more positive messaging coming through our media in general.
Totally.
Granted, we could argue that like with other media, there's there's negative, but at least there's some positive, right?
Absolutely.
How else can parents use music and maybe by extension, the arts in general to help support their kiddos along
Absolutely.
the way?
I mean, when you mentioned sending a TikTok video or sending a meme, I think meeting kids where they are is really, really helpful and saying, okay, my son spends X amount of hours a day on TikTok and I really want to reach him today because I know he's going through something hard. I was reading a parenting book and it talked about texting your child every once in a while just to say something that saying it verbally is received in a certain way and writing it down and putting a note in their lunchbox or sending a text message is received just a little bit differently. So sending a TikTok video about, a kid their age who's struggling with something might open it up and it might not be received, but it doesn't mean you don't try. If they don't like that TikToker, maybe go to a different one and a different one. You keep trying in new ways. And I think that's the only answer we have, you know, or
Right, for
if
sure.
they don't like that musician that you sent them, okay, maybe we try an art class because painting to get our feelings out is another helpful way to use self-expression. And
One
there's,
of
yeah, go ahead.
was going to say one of the things that I periodically ask in our private Facebook group on
Mhm.
a Sunday is like it's a Sunday reset. What is your intention to create connection this week?
I like
And
that.
one of the moms in the group said that she booked a painting class for herself and her kiddo.
That's
She's
nice.
like, we've never done it before, but we're going to go do it. And it's going to be
Yeah.
something it's time not on our phones. It's time not in front of a screen, like in front of a
Mhm.
movie. She's like, I could have gone to a movie, but I didn't want it to be a screen.
Yeah.
It's not the same boring old dinner where we might be tempted to pull our phones out. And
Mhm.
it was like a creative outlet. So I love that you mentioned a painting class because I think it's like a sip and paint kind of place that they're going. Where like clearly the kid is going to get a Sprite, but like
Yeah.
it's going to be something. I've also heard heard other folks talk about like when it comes to helping them do chores,
Mm.
like put a song on and be like, hey, how much of the chore can we get accomplished during this song? So
Yes.
like maybe it's one of their favorite songs. Maybe it's not one that expressly has a positive intent, but it's
Yeah.
a way to help. If we bring music in, it's a way to help gamify some of it, right?
Mhm.
Because like, I'm sorry, but you can't stay in a bad mood after listening to YMCA, you know, or whatever, you know,
Yeah.
upbeat song it is, you know, like let's
Totally.
just, and maybe make it that like that's the time frame during which you put laundry away, and maybe you
Yeah.
don't get it all done, but you get
Totally.
some of the laundry put away during that song, and then you go do
Totally.
whatever the other thing is.
Yeah.
Other ideas that you have, is that
Yeah.
sparking anything for you?
No, it's yeah, because I mean, I think we're here to enjoy life as much as we can and do some good. So
Mhm.
those together activities I feel like are so beneficial, and putting on music while cleaning is one of my favorite things to do. So making
Mhm.
it as pleasant as humanly possible, you know? And like I love the dinner table conversation. Another, it's gratitude again, but another one of my favorite exercises to build towards goals with your kids. One of my friends who now has this amazing, it's called Super Connector Media. It's a mastermind, and her name's Jen Gottlieb, and her husband is Chris Winfield, and I'm learning so much from them. But she has this exercise where it's not just present gratitude or past gratitude. She talks about what her future self is going to be grateful for, and she
Ooh.
feels it. And that's another one that we'll do kind of just like when we're cuddling in bed. Because I'm like, what do I want to accomplish out of today? What do I want to accomplish out of my life? And getting
Mhm.
clear about goals, because kids working toward goals really helps inform their sense of self.
Mhm.
And celebrating those goals is another one,
Mhm.
because I think as adults and as maybe American, you know, I don't know how global we are right now. A lot of Americans are so prideful about achievement, and then we achieve it and then we don't celebrate. We just keep going towards the next goal, you know?
Mhm.
So incorporating celebration into and showing into your life and showing kids that you celebrate your own achievements. You know, I'm cheersing my husband at dinner over tiny things because it's kind of like Pavlov's dog. It teaches ourselves to go forward and achieve more, and not to be too
Totally.
achievement focused, but celebrating things inside ourselves and being grateful for ourselves makes ourselves feel good.
Mhm.
So if it's, you know,
Well,
I tried to tie my shoes. Not even I tied my shoes. I put in
yeah,
effort, you know, because I'm sure you
exactly.
know this from psychology. If kids are praised for the achievement itself or being really smart, it's not as beneficial to their sense of self if we praise the effort. So saying, I
The
see how hard
process.
you're working on that painting versus, oh, you're such a good painter. It's
Right.
this subtle difference, but it's
Yep.
really important.
And that's going to go right back to what Dr. Dweck says in mindset. So
We are not getting a
absolutely.
kickback, but wouldn't it be great if we did?
I know, right? No, it's just, it's such good stuff. And so many of
Yeah.
us didn't grow up with these kinds of thoughts that
No.
if we're looking at like, hey, how can we have a more and more and more positive impact on our next generation? It's
Mhm.
on us to learn things like this to be able to share it.
Mhm.
So Caley,
Absolutely.
thank you so much.
Thank
I'm just
you.
going to be like, hey, this is a good stopping point because otherwise we could talk for hours.
When I
I
get
love
excited, I just
I'm totally the same way. I
Yeah.
love having people like you in the sphere that we're creating here at Parent Tween Connection that helps families have better experiences
Mhm.
overall.
Thank you for
So
doing this.
Absolutely. So we mentioned at the beginning that this is a, conversation that is part of Empowerthon, which is our
Mhm.
inaugural fundraiser. So here is the shameless request for donation that I promised you was going to come. You can click on the link in any of the places where you're seeing Caley now, in our Facebook group, on our LinkedIn page, or on our YouTube channel. And those links are actually going to stay active forever. Like, why would I close them down? So even if you're hearing this 5 years from now, we're going to
Aw.
say thank you for any donation that you choose to make. But we do have a friendly contest going among our participants that's going to end on Father's Day here in the US, which is the 18th of June. It's actually next Sunday. And the little friendly contest is that whoever our fundraising guest participant is, as in like the person who helps us generate the most in donations through their personal link, we will donate 20% back to the nonprofit that supports kids or families of their choice. And so, Caley, you had indicated the Good Shepherd Shelter of Los Angeles. Can you give them a shout out and talk about what they do and why they're important to you?
Certainly will. We connected. I wrote a song called Behind Closed Doors a couple years ago, and it's about domestic violence. And I luckily have never been the victim of that, but I just felt that this was an important story to tell. So I kind of just went like this to a map. I'm waving my finger if anybody's just listening, and picked a women's domestic violence shelter in LA and got connected with them and donated some of the proceeds to them. And then we have fostered this beautiful relationship. I wrote a song for one of their galas, and I recently got to go in person and perform there because they have a school on this campus. So they bring women in, they give them a safe place, and they educate. They have beautiful playgrounds. I mean, it's just such a beautiful place. So I am a huge proponent of them and the work that they're doing. So it's called the Good Shepherd Shelter, and they deserve every single dollar that you can offer.
That is awesome.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And Caley, thank you for doing what you do the way that you do it through music. There aren't as many folks who have the gift of music that you have that are also combining it with the positivity that you're sharing with kids. And
thank you.
No one way is better than any other, but the more that we can reach kids in an array of approaches, the better. The more messaging we can get them, the better. So thank you for doing what you do through music. Obviously, I'm a little partial to it because that's my background too.
And if anybody wants to book a Music with a Message show, you can visit my website, CaleyRose.com. It's CALEY, Rose as in the flower, CALEY, Rose as in the flower. And I have my reel on there for the program, and you can reach out to one of our booking agents, and they will book a Music with a Message show to bring confidence tools into your school.
Awesome. I love it. All right, Caley, thank you so much. Anybody listening, thank you for any donation that you can make. We appreciate you, and we will catch you next time.
Thank you so much.